y'all, welcome back to Bowls with the Bard. My name is Cakes, I am your host. Today we are talking with Liz Bellows. Liz is an actor based in Portland who is currently playing Don Pedro in Much Ado About Nothing at the Canon Shakespeare Company. I will drop links and dates for that in the description. Liz also just finished their second season as an associate artist with the original Practice Shakespeare Festival, where they most notably appeared as Laertes in Hamlet, Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet, and Hotspur in Henry IV Part 1. In their free time, Liz enjoys sewing, gardening, and making whimsical art, and their favorite play is Julius Caesar. Liz is here today to talk about the original Practice Shakespeare Festival and to discuss how we can achieve gender equity in Shakespeare and beyond. We had a blast talking to each other. I'm so excited to share the conversation with you. But before that, we got a little bit high. Right, y'all, we are back talking plague things with Liz Bellows. Liz, what fun stuff did you do with your quarantines?
So during my quarantine, I started on TikTok. Very fun. But I also restarted my acting career during quarantine. I had taken what I call my actor's Rumspringa, and tried to do other things for like 5 years. I lived on a hippie commune. I disappeared for entirely, and then quarantine happened. Like I left all of that, went to quarantine. It was like, I feel so dissatisfied with my life. There's nothing to do. There's acting classes online now. There's auditions online now. And so I actually was able to rejoin the theater scene because I could do it from home and not have to see people or go through like the getting over stage fright that like would happen after not being in theater for 5 years.
What a nice way to like ease back in.
Right? I know that the quarantine was like, oh God, it was so fucking hard for everyone. We lost a lot of people in the theater scene, and people just like did not get good at so high.
The best part of the show.
But like, I don't know, I'm grateful for quarantine because I got to be back in theater, and like also self-tapes became a thing, and also like we just, I don't know, what's I did during quarantine.
Hell yeah. So now you are part of this epic, amazing company called the Original Practice Shakespeare Festival, which is how I found you via one of your TikToks.
Yes.
I just want you to talk a little bit more about it in general. Like, I think what you guys do is so cool and so valuable and amazing. And so, yeah, just tell us about what you guys do.
Op stuff is absolutely amazing. So it's called the Original Practice Shakespeare Festival. And we do 25 Shakespeare shows in the Portland parks over the course of summer, starting on the solstice, midsummer, starting on midsummer. That's the solstice. And then we're going all the way through August. We're looking at maybe moving into the start of September because we had really bad heat here and had to move some shows. But and we do it entirely in the original practice way, where we only have scrolls with only our lines on it and a couple of words of cue. So we don't do any rehearsals except for like dances and fights and music, and just put on a bunch of shows, just speed run through the canon. And it's astoundingly queer. One of the things, like the main focuses of OpsFest is accessibility, and so like that's why we do it in the parks, and we do it completely for free. We ask for donations because we are professional actors who get paid, but also we want to have it so that anyone walking through the park can just stop and watch a show and get a little toasty and watch a show. It's really great in the park, and we like seeing ourselves up on stage. I like we're talking about accessibility and talking about representation. I'm sorry, this is way ahead. I did some preparing for this.
That's okay. No, go off.
Going off. Here we go. It's so queer. Everyone there is so kind. Earlier when we were getting stoned, we were talking about how like Shakespeare people are just like really nice people, and they like are very not so like they're not so toxic in general. And that's what I found with Ops Fest. I just love them all so much. They're such talented actors. The fact that we could just do 25 freaking shows, no rehearsal, mind blowing. Mind blowing.
It's really amazing, like following y'all on TikTok and seeing like, oh, we're doing 4 shows this weekend, like NBD, but also on top of like the amazing theater practices that you guys do, you also seem to care about people in a way that I don't see very frequently in the professional theater world. Like, I've been so impressed by how early y'all have called shows for Heat. It's like thoughtful to the audience and thoughtful to your actors rather than like canceling while people are on their way, which people do out here all the time.
What? No,
Yeah,
you gotta
oh,
like
all the
respect your
time.
audiences. Those are the people who pay you.
Yeah.
Like we love our audiences, and like that's one of we also do like a lot of audience interaction, so we really get to know our audiences. So we don't want you guys to have to sit out there in the heat. We have our new rule of thumb that we developed this year is if it's 95 degrees, it's canceled.
That's a great rule.
It's too hot to perform. We have too many pictures of actors laying backstage just looking like death and then getting up and doing a show.
Yeah, no, I've been on stage while an actor has been not good because of heat and watched the whole cast on stage be like, ha, ha, please be okay. Please, like, you don't have to get through it. You can go. You could please, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that like theater in general has learned from the pandemic is that no, it's okay if the show doesn't go on. It's okay. Like we'll hold on, we'll refresh. You come first. Like it's not just with heat. Like if someone gets sick in ops, we're like, cool. Anybody available to play this part? And like you may get a week, you may get half an hour. I had half an hour last season to prepare because someone got COVID. And so I'm like, cold reads, not a problem anymore.
Holy cow. That's
And just
what a great way to build skill as well. Like, that's so cool.
I'm in actually another production of Much Ado, which will be my 3rd production of Much Ado this summer, with a different Shakespeare company. And they're fantastic and great, and like all of them is great. But I'm just bringing the skill from ops and just like this intensive training in Shakespeare and bringing it into another production. It's the best education an actor could have.
Oh yeah. That's awesome. So another one of the practices that you guys engage with that I think is really awesome is that like gendering is kind of up in the air, up for grabs for these actors,
Yes.
which is not necessarily an original practice, but I think an equitable one. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I feel like it's kind of like it's an equitable one because one, Portland is so trans, Portland is so queer, that we really want to like lean into the actors that we have who may not be getting cast as these traditional roles like in big productions. And so I myself am trans, I'm non-binary, and so I've been able to explore gender and gender presentation through ops and like so oh god I should probably explain what we do. So what we do is if you get cast as a role, we cast based off of ability, not off of like type, like honestly fuck type.
What is it?
But yeah, fuck type. And so you get to play the character either as written, as your gender, or a gender that you have experience being. For instance, like I'm not a woman, but I did play Laertes as a woman because I've had experience being a woman. And it gives you so many insights. We just had a comedy of errors this last weekend where Antipholus of Syracuse was gay because Luciana was a man.
Ah, okay.
And Luciana specifically was played by a non-binary trans masculine actor. So it just is like it lets you see the world. We're playing for God's sake. And so sometimes you get to be who you want to be. And like what story does that tell with these 400-year-old texts? This thing that's been around for so long, and it made the play relevant again. It made the play so much more interesting to watch as a modern viewer. And it also just was really fun to see. Like it's just fun to I wore a giant mustache. It was great. Like Zorro. No.
Oh.
Um, and it just it's a very fun way to get to explore your own gender, and also like for our cisgendered actors, um, it's like a practice in fixing pronouns really fast because like
Mm.
we do have like a Slack thread where we'll like post all our pronouns and we try to get them all in like a week ahead of time so that we can print them in the programs. But sometimes it doesn't happen that way. And so someone's like, yeah, she, her, not as written. And we're like, okay, gonna correct it. The they, them, all of our members are fine with our anyone's pronouns outside of theater. I never get misgendered because we're just so practiced at it. We're just like, oh, yep, I misgendered. And then we just do a quick correction because the show has to keep moving forward. We have to keep progressing. And it helps educate our audiences, which we know that audiences tend to skew older, especially for Shakespeare, that we like as an industry attract people who like the classics, who usually are grandparents, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
kids too. And just as it's like an education for our audiences that normalizes seeing these people as these characters, normalizes seeing women loving each other. We have Romeo and Juliet coming up this weekend. They're going to be an actual non-binary lesbian couple.
Hell yeah.
uh, they're oh my god, I'm so excited about it. It's amazing. It's amazing. Othello is played by our artistic director Jen Lanier, co-artistic director Jen Lanier, who is a black two-spirited butch lesbian.
Amazing.
She plays it every single year, and so it always is yes racism, yes Othello, and also lesbophobia, and also like queer phobia, transphobia. Like it all comes into play when you change the gender, and it makes it so much more interesting. I love it. I love it. I can never without it. I don't think theater should be ever done differently. Choose your gender.
I'm like listening to you talk about it, and I already like so wanted to be able to come and see all of your shows this season. But like now even more, I'm like, I gotta get up there. I gotta see you guys.
I'm never leaving. There's gonna be time for at least to come see me.
Okay, good. I'm glad because I'm like 100% we're planning to move to Colorado sometime soon. So I'm coming up to see you at some point.
Colorado is so much more close than DC.
Yeah. Can get a cheap Spirit Airlines flight up to see you,
Exactly.
you know.
Yay.
When you guys do that, do your scrolls have the genders that you picked, or do you have to practice like knowing?
So that depends on the actor. So
Okay.
the roles that we are given are completely as written.
Okay.
Some people are on top of it enough to, before they print, change the genders on all of them. I print all of mine off at the beginning of the year. And I've misgendered a lot of people this season. um, but I often just like write in. I just go like Hamlet, she, her, making sure that I remember that, and I do it on the fly in my head, like in the actual script. But I have the notification written there because who doesn't mark up your script? And you get to have your script on stage. That's really nice.
So cool.
All your notes right there.
I
And you
like
can remember it all.
I've seen you explain how you guys do the rolling, and I still am mind blown by the fact that y'all act while you're doing that. It's
It's really nice because I'm also autistic, and so I'm not so good with the eye contact part, but I've got something here. And it's been a practice actually that I've had to start working on. It's like we don't really have directors because we're doing it on the fly, but our artistic directors really do act as like the season is the entire show. So you get feedback on it's like not a rehearsal process, but it's similar to a rehearsal process on like, what can I improve, like what am I doing differently.
Hmm.
And so a note I got from Jen last year was I needed to improve my eye contact, and so now I'm practicing. I have the script for when I need to check, and then bringing myself away from the script to be within the scene, which is part of what is so beautiful about original practice, is that we did not read the play at all beforehand. Some people cheat and watch some movies because who can resist watching Rome or Hollow Crown, but we don't. We have that moment of realization in the moment. We're experiencing the show at the exact same time as you are for the very first time. It's never the same cast year to year. Like the closest we ever got was that Taming of the Shrew at the beginning of the year had a lot of repeat roles. I had a repeat role as Biondello, but it still was a different show. It's still like, even with a lot of like these main characters being the same, it was different because Patricia was different, Kate was different. Like it was different enough that you're never doing the same show twice. So you really get to have the moments of realization, the spontaneity that can be lost through rehearsal processes. That's another thing that I really love about ops, about this style. It's, again, the best training an actor could have.
Yeah, that's so neat. It's like, even if you did have the same cast twice, like if you don't rehearse, you're never gonna have the same show. Like, really amazing. So to transition us into some more serious topics.
Yes.
I know, like, it sounds like Obsfest is doing an amazing job addressing gender equity in Shakespeare. I feel like Shakespeare is a weird place where like it does better than most theater in terms of like messing around with stuff and playing with things, but in my experience, a lot of that has been very binary. Um, and so I'm interested to know, like, how can we serve the non-binary community better? And like, where are we falling short?
Looking at traditional casting calls, we're just kind of, you're right, we're stuck in this kind of binary with everything that's not Shakespeare. And I think that regular theater could benefit from being a little bit fuckery. I have a feeling that like devised works and new works and like the kind of more avant-garde works are actually taking it seriously, but no one's gonna want to see an August Wilson changed.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that it'd be really good if we let people tell the story that they want to tell through the art. And of course, we have directors; they can control that. But we also just don't see a representation in that community either of non-binary people. I mean, it's all connected, because by challenging non-binariness, you have to also challenge beauty standards and racial standards, and like, it's scary. um I'm trying to figure out how to say this without stepping on a whole bunch of toes because I have an audition later. But I also just don't think that actors and like a lot of cisgendered people like think about challenging the binary because it's so comfortable. It's a regular place to exist if it doesn't cause you disharmony. So I don't think that there is enough representation for non-binary people. As I said earlier, that their Obsfest is doing a really, really great job, and it's become kind of a safe haven for a lot of trans actors. But there's still these weird requirements on so many auditions, especially so many mainstream auditions. Like, you're supposed to list your weight on your resume. You're supposed to list you like those kind of things. And the fact that I just saw Pretty Woman at the Keller, like, why are we still doing that show? Why are we still doing that show? There's so many things that I want them to get to, but non-binary, the idea of going non-binary, no binary, when they're still having trouble with gender with colorblind casting or color conscious casting, like, I want us to get there, but they're gonna have, that means that they're gonna have to question so many things that make up the core of their foundation, that make up the core of it. And they're also terrified of scaring away their audiences. Like we said, theater tends to have a more aging audience, and we're having a hard time connecting with people who can afford to go to theater that are young, because none of us can afford to go see theater. I'm rushing tickets constantly. I'm so broke.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to scare away. So that's one of the reasons we do mainstream theater. So I feel like when we're looking for non-binary representation, we're going to have to look at smaller theater. We're going to have to look at Obsfest. We're going to have to look at Canon Shakespeare Company. We're going to have to look at off-Broadway avant-garde devised theater is going to have trans representation, because unfortunately the theater world is scared of it. They're ready for it. We're ready for a shakeup, but
Yeah, I
it's
I think you're right on the money, especially with the like fear of scaring away audiences, and it's like a valid fear. I know the Globe just announced that they're doing a production with Joan of Arc, who's going to be non-binary and use they them pronouns in the production. And
yes.
the backlash, Liz, has been
Yeah.
enormous. Just like so many people in the comments section being like, this great woman figure, you're erasing her. Like these especially these women who are just not secure enough in their own womanhood to realize that that's not a threat to them at all.
Yeah.
But I was super proud Michelle Terry like released a great statement about it, and so at least like there's some sort of push, and hopefully the audience that they lose for making that choice will be replaced by young non-binary people who are excited about that choice. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
I feel like a lot of cis people, when we see us change the gender of a character, they're like, oh no, you're changing it because you want to fix it, you want to change it to something different, you don't respect it. But really it's just that, like, we're seeing ourselves in that character. We're connecting so deeply to that character that we're seeing ourselves in it. The thing that I got with Laertes, which I didn't change to be non-binary, I changed to be a woman, because I consider myself like non-binary is like a neutral. I can go either direction. It's like a great place to exist as an actor. It's I can do anything in the world I want to, as long as I can put my mind to it, as long as I can convince and just do my work hard enough. But I changed it to she, her, because I saw my sister relationship with, like, the sisterhood relationship I have with my sister, in Laertes and Ophelia, in that really closeness, in that fierce devotion to grief, and like that so much love can hurt so much. And so that's what I thought in Laertes. And so I wasn't changing Laertes because I want to have girl power. I wasn't changing it because I want to be like edgy and trans. No, I changed it to reflect a real relationship in myself, and a way to portray who I am, which is what acting is. We're not just portraying a character. It's not playing pretend, it's also playing truth.
Yes. Yes, I was literally just about to say that's beautiful, and you're gonna get a more honest portrayal that way anyway. So
And it's just fun to see too. It's more fun to see someone creating art than to see the same thing over and over and over and over again, which is why I'm really done with white male Hamlets.
whoo, baby, yeah. Definitely. So I guess speaking of all of this, do you have any examples of like characters or shows you would like to see specifically with like a trans or non-binary influence?
I mean, I can't wait to see all of the canon in everything different. We've had some women Richard the Thirds, we've had non-binary Richard the Thirds. Um, I want there's this one actor, Tess, who I really want to play Richard. They are in a wheelchair and an astounding actor. I have an amazing booming voice, and they are non-binary and like just gender queer out the fucking wazoo. I want to see them play Richard. No, Jen, no, Brian, that's not a hint. I also want to see a lot more of the classic but not Shakespeare works done genderqueer. I'm really excited about the idea of doing like, oh, airplane. That's the ops fest instinct, is like tweet, prompter and hold for the airplane to get past.
It's a vibe, an outdoor theater vibe.
It's like a great outdoor theater vibe. Sometimes we just have a bunch of naked bicyclists riding past. That's Poland outdoor theater vibe.
So good.
So I'm really excited about like the idea of seeing Jane Austen done non-binary, done queer. I'm really excited. Like, I mean, what if Mr. Darcy and Lizzy were a lesbian couple? Well, would that work? Would that work out well? Or
if
would
their
it be
dynamic, I think their dynamic, it would be perfect. Like,
it would be great. It would be so funny. And just like being able to play with archetypical characters that like I would love to see it in more modern works. I understand the hesitation with more modern works because a lot of people wanted to do it. But like Jane Austen, let's mess with it. Oscar Wilde, let's mess with it. Let's see importance of being earnest, and it's just all a bunch of weird non-binary beings on stage struggling.
would be delightful.
And so I currently live in a house that has been a clown community house for several generations. We're not entirely clowns right now, but everyone is like clown adjacent. And so I want to see like Beckett plays done queer. Wouldn't that be fun? Like Waiting for Godot, but the genders don't matter in that. They really don't. Let's just make it whatever people want to do. Get weird with it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, especially like I come from the musical theater world, so a lot of the time when I go contemporary, I think about like all of the added necessary things that would have to happen to change a score and all of that. But like, yeah, with like these classic, even classic contemporary plays, like why not?
Why not?
It really doesn't change as long as you're conscious about what you're saying with it. Like,
yeah. And sometimes you end up with something that doesn't quite work, and that's one of the reasons why I like doing upsets, is that we do it once and then it's done. And if it didn't work, try again next time.
Yep, now you know.
So yeah, and then God, I'm trying to think of specific Shakespeare plays that I want to see queer, but it's all of them.
All of them.
All of them. I'm so excited to be playing Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet with a non-binary couple. Like it's just gonna be very fun. I would love to see Comedy of Errors possibly, because like we had the gay Antiphilus of Syracuse, and I loved that, and I want to see what would happen in a rehearsal process with that. That would be, I think, very fascinating. When we just did in comedies, short and fun.
Yeah, I mean, the whole canon. Like
the whole
literally. I think that's the best answer.
All of it. I'm trying to, because we honestly, at this point, I'm trying to think of things like, what haven't I seen already? We've done gender reversed Macbeths. We've done gender queer Macbeths. I think at this point, like, we've seen old no, I just think of one. So we have seen elderly Romeo and Juliet, but they were a straight couple.
Ooh.
That was a very interesting one. I want to see two old lesbians. It's funny. It's so fascinating because like Romeo and Juliet, you like, it's people saying like, no, you can't get married to this guy. No, you're like an infantilization, and then it turns into the infantilization of the elderly, being like, we need your money to go there here, and like still finding love and then dying together.
That's so interesting though, like, because that's real. Like,
it's real.
Yeah. Gosh, I think what I've learned from this interview is that I just like want all of the non-original Practice Shakespeare companies to be more like Obsfest.
Do weird shit. No.
Like, come on. Try it.
And like, acting is a weird career. It's not something that you would understand if you look at our like how we like hone our craft. It's like I need to go do weird squats and try to climb over my garden fence. I'm preparing for Romeo. Like
Uh-huh.
that's a weird thing. That's a weird thing to do. So why don't we get weird with it in productions?
Amen. I think that is a great place to wrap up. Liz, thank you so much for coming on. I am so excited to have used this opportunity to officially meet you. Um, we met, for all you people out there, we met via TikTok, just like chatting in the comments and such. And it's like we know each other, but this is the first time we've spoken. So
Exactly. We see each other's like weird thoughts, and then
yeah, it's wild and wonderful to love a person from far away, but I have so much love for you, Liz, and I'm so glad, so glad that I got to have you on. Thank you.
thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun.
Yay! If you enjoyed today's episode, you can follow Liz, the original Practice Shakespeare Festival, and Bulls with the Bard at the handles either on your screen or in the description. Tune in next week as we talk with Rania Brown about what it has been like to jump back into acting in the middle of a pandemic, and we continue our conversation about how the Shakespeare community can do better by the Black community. As always, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe, and we will see you all next week. Bye, y'all.
1,000 sighs to save. Oh, lay me where sad true lover never find my grave to weep there.